Welcome to another edition of the Red Pill Diaries, and I guess we can say that this is one of the vampire streams because it's after 7 o'clock my time. Okay, but I'd like to thank each and every one of you for joining me here on the most powerful platform for truth anywhere, bar none, on social media. This is the place for empowerment, education, and gratification. You'll get the news. You may not get it the way you want it, but the way you get it is the way you need it when we deliver it here by the grace of Almighty God. So, again, thank you. And we thank you for giving us another hour of your day and another day of your time, because time is the most precious, non renewable resource or commodity that anyone everywhere has. Once you use that time up, you can never get it back again. So we hope on this edition of the Red Pill Diaries, as with all editions of the Red Pill Diary, that we can give you an equal or greater value of the time that you have spent with us. Okay. So first of all, I want to address a few things that's going on. And if you see smoke coming by, I have some sage incense blowing. I'm trying to get the negative atmosphere going in here. But I was thinking about the situation over in Pakistan, okay? And we'll address that. We're going to talk about all of that, and we're going to connect it with the dollar. We're going to connect it with the BRICS. We're going to connect it with the war in Ukraine. We're going to connect it with the pivot to Asia. We're just going to connect all those little dots so you can see the grand picture of what's going on the global stage, okay? So let us look at things. We know Imran Khan, the former cricket superstar over there, and a national icon, made his way to power on a pledge of rooting out corruption and no longer allowing Pakistan to be a stooge of the West. We know that, all right? And we know that the United States played a major and instrumental, if not the center role, of his deposing from being the prime minister of Pakistan. Now, I want to add something to that. Remember that Pakistan, according to the census, the global census, is the only nuclear armed Muslim nation state. Acknowledged, I say, acknowledged nuclear armed Muslim state. Okay? And so, with the deposing and then the demonization of Imran Khan, America has a lot to gain, because Imran Khan was not allowing America to get her will to set up more bases in Pakistan so that she can not only keep Afghanistan destabilized, but she can use Pakistan as a jump off point to destabilize all of the stands. You know, when I say stands, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, and all of the other stands that are over there, the Central Asian nations that are over there that were once formerly part of the Soviet Union. And also to use Pakistan to keep India off center and to destabilize China and to beat Russia back within her own borders. This is what Pakistan was being looked at by the United States, and you can go and read some of the writings on this stuff. I mean, this is not rocket science. This is not stuff that that the average person, if they wanted to do so, could not find out. A lot of the terrorist bombings over there, this is done by Israeli Mossad. This is done by the CIA. This is done by the Indian RAW. It is. And then they blame it on what they call extremists or Islamic extremists or Muslim fascists or something like that. But a lot of those people have been incubated and birthed by those intelligence agencies that I have just read off to you. Now, why is it so important to demonize Imran Khan? And as we talk about this, you'll see the connection with the dollar. You'll see the connection with America's position in trying to pivot to Asia, and you'll see America's connection with this and trying to break the back of a rising Africa, a more independent-minded Middle East, and to try to cement American power globally. Okay, why is it so important to demonize him? Because he was the most popular politician in Pakistan's 75-year history. Okay? And what he did was stand up to the West. And it comes as no like thing out of the blue or no coincidence that prior to his deposing and the no confidence vote and the coup that took place, remember America, Great Britain, France, and all of them are for democratic values, right? But they uttered not one word when the democratically elected Prime Minister of Pakistan was deposed in a U.S., UK, NATO-led and orchestrated coup against his government, right? So some of you have short memories, but we'll get to this. It comes as no coincidence that he was deposed in this coup right after the United States sent an ambassador there to try to coerce or strong arm the Pakistani government to taking a anti-Russian stance in the situation that is taking place in Ukraine. Excuse me for that. I have to pull these off. These are magnetic earrings, and what they do, they have a little microphone in them. So right now I'm getting feedback on them. Hold on one second. That's why you see me. I have them so that I can talk to you and also listen to clips, but I have to take it off for a minute, okay? But listen. So prior to his deposing, the United States sent strong words of disapproval and gave him an ultimatum to change Pakistan's position and direction, right? He refused, and within 24 to 48 hours, he was deposed in the coup. The people of Pakistan have been rioting, they have been protesting, they have been all in the streets of all over Pakistan, but you would never know this because the Western media hasn't picked this up. They don't want you to understand the connection with American power, UK power, NATO power, and how they deposed the democratically elected prime minister and his government in Pakistan. Right? So, what has this to do with the dollar? Pakistan was going to be center stage in the Chinese-led Belt and Road Initiative. And America could not have that, and she wanted that to be broken off. And the Pakistani government of Imran Khan said, hey, look, we're in an economic crisis. We can't rely on your economic gratuity because you're in a crisis yourself. And the Chinese are getting ready to invest $60 billion in us. This is something that can lift us up out of poverty. It can make us an independent nation, truly independent. So we got to go with what's best for the nation. This is a no-no in the eyes of the American empire, the British Empire, the NATO terrorist organization. This is a no-no. No free will, no free thought, no independence. That is not allowed. So they deposed him to try to beat back the Belt and Road Initiative, and also because Pakistan would not take a belligerent stance against Russia in the conflict between Russia and NATO and the U.S. in Ukraine, because that's what it's really about. It's America trying to impose her power on Russia. She knows that Russia has the largest nuclear arsenal in the world, but she feels that if she can surround her with bases, then put all of these missile defense systems on all of these bases, and then also put offensive systems there. She can hold the barrel of a gun to Moscow's head and make Moscow's nuclear deterrent, neutered. She wants to neuter the nuclear deterrent so that she can continue to dominate. This is what that's all about, okay? Make no mistake about this. So there are still protests all across Pakistan, okay? Large protests. And I want to shout out, let's see, None Your Business. Oh, yeah. None Your Business is in the chat. Thank you, None Your Business. Anyway, so what we're looking at is the escalation of crisis after crisis on the Asian continent, because America refuses to allow any nation or combination of nations to become her peer, rival, or have more power than her, more influence than her. And listen, all one has to do is Google what I'm saying, because it is a U.S. stated policy and goal or initiative that states that America will not allow, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, this was in writing, the U.S. should not and would not allow the rise of any near peer power, or peer power, or combination of near peer powers to emerge to challenge her position or her power. That is the stated goal. You can read this stuff. So what she is doing, she is Vladimir Putin and others call it the nation of the empire of lies. I call it the empire of chaos, because for her to rule, for her to maintain her position, for her to continue to progress, she must have conflict. She must have disenfranchisement. She must have disillusionment. She must have division, so that she can step in the middle after causing all of these things, and then present her peace plan. And Rashid, I see you in there. I see you. And present her peace plan to you. And if you accept her peace plan, she rules both of you. And she continues to maintain her hegemonic ways. So as we look at this situation with the Pakistan prime minister being deposed, right, we have to look at it through a larger viewpoint, and not just, oh, that those people over there are fighting each other, or those people over there are running an unstable government. It is the UK, remnants of Imperial Britain, remnants of U.S. intelligence services, the Israeli Mossad, and the Indian Raw intelligence services that are trying to create havoc and division in Pakistan, because India wants to truly, and some of them even said it publicly, they want to reincorporate Pakistan back into India so that they can rule the whole center. This is a stated goal of those. We talk about Christian fascists, right? And you like to talk about Islamic fundamentalism, but they don't utter a word about extreme Jewish people or the Hindu fundamentalists. And all of this is, listen, let us look at something. Let us get right to the point. When we look at bin Laden and we call him a terrorist, right? And we look at Al Qaeda and we call it a terrorist group, right? And we look at ISIS and we call it a terrorist group. And then we look at the Taliban and we call it a terrorist group. All right. And then they give a negative connotation to this. And Rashid, I'm gonna bring you in just a second. Let me finish my thought. And so they put Islamic extremists on there, or Islamic fundamentalism over there. That is to demonize Islam or to demonize Muslims. But if one were to do your research, because the information is abundant, we know that the Taliban, bin Laden, ISIS, right? And all of these other so-called fundamentalist or Islamic extremist groups were nurtured and catered by Western intelligence services. They were trained, they were given that doctrine of dogma that they present to the world. They were funded by and they were armed by the West. So in reality, even though you may hear somebody screaming out Allahu Akbar as they bomb something, in reality, you can't really plant that on them. You have to plant it on the people behind the curtain. So if the puppet fails to mimic what the person that's holding the puppet in his hand says, is that the puppet fault or is it the puppeteer fault? It's the puppeteer's fault. So if we got to lay this down, and I know this is going to aggravate a lot of people, but I got to tell the truth and I have to put it out there like this. If the West claims to be the most Christianized nations on the planet, and they are diehard this, then we can't say that it's Islamic fundamentalism or Islamic extremism when the people behind the curtain pulling the strings are publicly claim to be Christians. It has to be laid right in the lap of them and say, every time you hear somebody say Allahu Akbar and bomb a church or bomb a mosque or do this, it's because of the Christian fundamentalists who continue to run roughshod across the globe in their dire their unquenchable desire for total world domination. That's what hegemony is. To impose your will, your thought, your culture, your religion, and everything that you believe on other people. So their culture is not good enough to run their nations. Their governments and their institutions are not good enough to run. You must be democratic. Who said that? When did that come into play? And we must remember that the Saudis, they were bandits. And it was the British who gave them that Wahhabi manifesto. It was the British that did that. But all of this gets left out of the equation. And what we have to do, we have to put this stuff. Oh my, Real Truth Talk is in the building. Go subscribe to Real Truth Talk right now. All right? And look at all the videos over there. That's my guy over there. Rashid, I'm going to bring you in just a second. Give me like 2 minutes to finish this thought. And then I'm going to bring you in and have you to say some stuff. But in reality, it was the British who pushed that Wahhabi doctrine. The Saudis would have never ascended to power were it not for the French, the British, and the U.S. So all of this stuff is the blowback of Western intransigence. The Western nations' desire for hegemony globally at all costs. They don't sit down and think over the ramifications of their policies directors. They just give the policy, they issue the policy and carry it out without thinking about how it's going to affect them 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years down the line. And when it comes back to bite them in the butt, it's not their fault, it's those people's fault. Those people's fault. You understand? And to get to fleece their public, they have to have an enemy, so they magnify the disagreements between those people and you. And so you start hating that sect of people, and then they start hating you, but you're funding the very government that has started it all and is maintaining it through your funding. And yet you don't see this. But all of that is a part of what is going on. We're seeing the breaking of the Bizarro world paradigm. And what I mean by the Bizarro world paradigm, we know that Bizarro is the antithesis to Superman. He's the opposite Superman, right? And his world and everything in his world was opposite. But to him, it looked right because that's the world he grew up in. That's the only thought that he had, was his world was right and Superman's world was wrong. And it was opposite to his. But in reality, the same person knows that his world is off-centered and his strategies and his movements are a detriment to the rational and stable world of Superman. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to bring you back into the world of Superman and get you off of the doctrine and the food that is being fed to you mentally by those leaders in power who run this Bizarro world. Okay. Now, on that note, let me bring Rashid in, and I know he has something to say, but I had to get my thoughts off. Go ahead, Rashid. I know you have something to say on this subject. And by the way, how are you doing today?
I'm still kicking, bro.
And mention your words, because I just got a thing from YouTube earlier today talking about giving us the axe. So have some measured words when you talk.
Well, I'm not gonna say anything but the truth. But if the truth will get you kicked off,
yeah. Go ahead.
Well, as you were saying about the Bizarro world, well, that's their goal. They don't care anything about the other people of other lands. Only thing I'm concerned about is how I can use them to benefit myself. That's what a Santa Claus legend come in. Santa Claus went up and went all over the Middle East and stole their riches and brought them back to Europe to benefit himself. So they're looking for Santa to come back and bring them goods. And this is exactly what they're doing around the world. Stealing, robbing, lying, cheating, whatever, to come back and make a heaven over here for himself while he make a hell for everybody else. And once again, as I said before, isn't that what the scriptures say about that 4 horsemen of the apocalypse?
Mm.
that the he who rode up on him was named Death, and hell followed close behind.
Yes, sir.
Wherever he went, death and hell followed him. Look at it. And he might get mad and say, "Well, that's talking hate, teacher." But wherever he look at it, wherever he went, hell followed. Is Syria hell or heaven? Is Iraq a hell or a heaven? Is Libya a hell or a heaven? Is Ukraine a hell or a heaven?
Yes,
Is
sir.
Serbia a hell or a heaven? This is where he went. Vietnam finally recovering from his bringing democracy. Yeah, bringing democracy from him. Excuse me a minute. Out and close the door.
Yes, sir.
You know, when you got grandchildren, brother, they
I got you.
just don't listen. But anyway, Vietnam is finally recovering from his democratization of Vietnam. Wherever he's went, he's brought hell and destruction.
Yeah.
And he don't care nothing about those people over there. He cares nothing about them. He really, to tell you the truth, he don't even consider them as human beings.
Right.
Just check his history. Did he consider the Indians in America human beings when he murdered them off and stole their country? He didn't consider nobody. It's nothing to me. Only thing I'm concerned about is a heaven for myself. So he can go and stir up trouble in Pakistan and kill off everybody, kill every last Pakistani. He don't care nothing about them people. I'm just only concerned about, can I rip and steal their natural resources? You know, we had been talking about this before, about you got some guy running around talking about he's a thief or a bank robber. He's a real desperate criminal. When the empire goes and steal nations, hey, you stole $10,000 or $500 from a bank, and the empire just ripped off a whole nation. I got 50 million people working for me for the next 100 years. Now, who is the thief?
Yeah. Hey, Rashid, when your grandchildren just came in there, real truth talk said, be like that sometimes.
You know how it is. You tell them to do something, they just no, it's just my way, and go straight ahead with it.
Yeah.
And you have to remind them that you still in charge.
Yeah. So listen, as we're talking on these issues, and I was connecting Pakistan with the situation with the Belt and Road Initiative and America's coup. Notice, I want the people to understand something. You notice how if Russia arrests any people who are in opposition and who are stirring up trouble, it makes the
American integrationists.
Yeah, you know, if Iran rounds up some U.S. Inspired terrorists or opposition, you need to free them now. Even the UN will start saying, we have to look into this. You have to do such and such. Not one peep has been uttered by the UK, France, the United States, or any of the so-called Western powers about the illegal, illegitimate seizure of the rightful prime minister of Pakistan. Not one word has been uttered in his support by the West.
Well, didn't the Americans? He said that he got it from the American ambassador that as long as Khan is in here, you ain't gonna have nothing but trouble. Mm-hmm. We gotta remove him and put in this paid-off puppet. Him and his brother both. See, that's
the whole family.
It's just like the Republicans and Democrats.
The whole family.
The Republicans and the Democrats, right? You put up the Republicans, I'm going to do this. Then you put up the Democrats, I'm going to do that. And when you find out they're the same size of the different sides of the same coin. They're the same people. And the same thing what he do with his minions around the world. He He pushed 1 million, and if that's not good, no matter who wins, he still wins, right?
Right.
Because he ruling both parts.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why Khan must be slammed. I do believe Pakistan is going to slide into civil war because the people want him. The people don't want them corrupt, paid off puppets. And that's all you have. The military industrial complex have had their people in those countries, many countries. The generals and stuff come over here and be taught in America or England, and they go back and they want to pull the same stuff that they see off in here. That's where it had all down in Latin America. What they call it, the Project of the Americas, the American School down here in Georgia, right? They bring in these puppets. Yes. They bring in these puppets and lapdogs and traitors. And then they go down there, go back home, and they're willing to kill hundreds of millions of people to be in power. And I hope this don't get me up and get us in trouble. But most of those people that's ruling in Latin America are descendants of the colonial powers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they don't see the indigenous people as people. They just things that we can use and get and abuse. They have the same mentality in their minds that the American people had when they came and exterminated the Indians and stole their country.
Well, it was something that I wanted to go back to on Pakistan. It was just something. Now, we know that they want Pakistan out of the way. First of all, as I brought to mind, it is the only recognized nuclear armed Muslim nation. That's number one. Number two, it took center stage as one of the main ports or whatever of the Belt and Road Initiative, right? And it also was also a major partner to the so-called Indian. You know how India tried to rival the Belt and Road and tried to use the Chabahar thing. Pakistan stood center stage with all of these pipelines, all of these trade routes, and even with Pakistan in China's corner. And this is what I was getting to. With Pakistan in China's corner, China doesn't need to rely on the Malacca Strait or any of that stuff. They can go through Pakistan and end right out there next to Iran and ship or receive shipments from there and transport it through train, plane, or automobile or whatever through Pakistan and up through Kashmir and up into China. And this is a no-no for America. Now, here is where I have some issue with the Chinese government right here. I think they're on point with most things that they're doing. But here's where I have the issue at. We know that China is a nation that does not interfere, tries not to interfere in the sovereign affairs of other countries. Pakistan being such a vital cog in the dethroning of the dollar and the West-based international system, and Pakistan relying so much on Chinese financial aid and military aid, I think China should use this influence on the military and make them reinstall the. It ain't like it's not like they're re-engineering something. They should put pressure on them to put Khan back into his position as the prime minister because we see chaos there and chaos
furthers their own interests.
Yes, this is a vital national interest for the Chinese, for the Russians, for the Iranians, for the Pakistanis,
and even for the Pakistanians.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think China
should, but
go ahead.
But you gotta. Isn't it interesting that all those countries you mentioned that's leaning against America, they having civil disobedience, right?
Yes.
They're having all kind of trouble and strife and stuff. But in his countries, Saudi Arabia and them little tiny emirates, you don't hear a word. right?
I want to
You,
give you something too. While we have everybody, I want you to listen to this. I want you to see how the United States projects everything that she does and everything that she is planning is just in her mind. She believes that somebody else is trying to do the same thing, so it becomes a threat. America says that she wants to be number one in Asia. But if China wants to be number one in Asia, she's being belligerent and aggressive. If America says we want the dollar to be maintained as the global reserve currency, China's trying to assert itself as the number one economic power and trying to dethrone the dollar. Well, the dollar had to dethrone something to get there. Didn't it dethrone the British pound? How is it that it's okay for you to dethrone something, but it's not okay for somebody else to dethrone where you are?
Didn't Lula say the same thing? Who's the one that made you king?
Yeah.
Who said that we got to use your money to be for our trade? Who said it? Oh, you said it, right?
Now I'm gonna play this. I'm gonna play this clip, everybody, but I'm gonna stop it a couple times and then replay it because there's some points on it I might have to interject in it. Okay, so if I stop it and then address a few points and then replay it, because there's no way for you to stop it and fast forward it. The way they have it set up, well, you have to play the whole thing. So if I do stop it, I won't stop it more than 2 or 3 times, and we'll look at the whole thing. But I want you to hear this, and I want you to see the mind of exceptionalism, the area, and in reality, it's a racist mind, and I'm gonna tell you, it's a race. The mind state of these people are racist, not only against black, brown, red, and yellow people, but they're racist now against white people. All they want is power now. They will kill everybody and everything to exert power globally. This is real. I want you to listen to his
Once
mind.
again, if I cannot rule,
I'm gonna kill everybody. And that's what he said. And listen, and when we say this is just a statement. So YouTube and the algorithm, we're not advocating violence. We're not advocating murder. We're not talking about people's race, gender, ethnicity, or any of that stuff. You got to say this stuff, man, because they are really tripping with this show here. Let me first.
1 second.
Yeah.
Just like Julian Assange is locked up and they want to give him 199 years in prison. What did he do? Tell the truth.
How dare you tell the truth? Now, listen, I'm going to play this. I got to play this.
Disclaimer.
Disclaimer. I got to play the disclaimer first because they're trying to get at me. Now, everybody else can play clips of news, but if we play clips of news, we are violating the copyright law. Even though the disclaimer says that if you use the clips and you're teaching on it, that is not in violation of any copyright law. But I'm going to play the disclaimer because I'd rather dot all my I's and cross the T's and all that stuff than to have all this foolishness thrown. So if we can avoid confrontation or problems with the platform, we do our best to do that. So let me do the disclaimer real quick first. All right, we're back. Now, I'm going to play something, all right? And I want you to hear this guy. Now, this guy sits on a very prominent committee in Congress. And this guy is the one who went to Chinese Taipei to provoke China. And then he says China was belligerent and sent military warplanes and ships around the island as if listen to me good, as if Chinese Taipei or Taiwan, quote unquote, is not Chinese territory. Now, that is almost like China complaining that the United States sends the National Guard to Texas, or the United States sends the National Guard to Florida. I mean, it is one and the same.
I gotta take this.
Okay, I'll mute you. Okay. So listen, it is crazy here. I just want you to listen to this thing. What I'm trying to show you is the arrogance and the cognitive dissonance they have to justify while they are doing such and such, and while they have certain policy initiatives, and at the same time disconnected from why others should have the same rationale. It's absolutely mind-boggling. But you know what? This is what goes on as empires crumble. And there's no way you cannot say that God has not smitten them with derision, because for them not to see this, for them not to understand this, something has to be blocking something up here so that they cannot comprehend that what they're doing is arrogant, racist, fascist, hypocritical, and is leading to the collapse and downfall of their world order. So they have to be smitten with something. Okay? I want you to pay close attention to this. And like I said, I might stop it, say something, stop it, say something, and stop it again and say something. So y'all bear with me, though. Here we go right here.
Welcome back. More warnings this morning coming out about doing business with China as Xi Jinping moves to make China the #1 economic superpower and overtake the United States. I spoke with Texas Congressman Michael McCall, the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee. We spoke here at the Milken Institute. I want to ask you about China, because now the Chinese Communist Party has been able to get the Saudis to transact in the Chinese yuan. Are you worried about the dollar losing its reserve status?
Well, not so much. What I don't like, all of a sudden they're the peace broker. You know, they show up at the 11th hour. We're not there, right? When we don't lead, China fills the void. So they negotiate this peace settlement between the Saudis and Iran. And all it really means is they can have embassies in their respective countries. But they're doing it. Macron went to visit Chairman Xi in Beijing when I was in Taipei. What I do worry about the dollar is in the Belt and Road Initiative, that's their debt trap. You have to sign a contract saying, I'm going to sign up for the digital yuan. What China wants long term is for the digital yuan to be the global currency and not the U.S. dollar.
That's incredible. Tell me about that as it relates to surveillance, because
right there, and then I'll address this, then I'll go back to it now. He says that it's a debt trap. Most of the nations have already debunked that. And how can a colonial nation speak about debt trap when they have, listen to me good, France, and this is no lie, you can go look at this France sued Haiti. This is the truth. They sued, because a lot of people wonder why Haiti is kept in turmoil. So this goes right with this, okay? So I'll explain it to you. A lot of people wonder why Haiti is so destabilized and how little gangs run this part and little gangs run, because Haiti is the drop-off point for the Western dope smuggling of the agencies like the CIA, the MI6, and all of these things like that. So I'll unmute you in a second. I'll unmute you in 1 second. And so, do you know that Haiti, when they broke free from French colonialism, the French government sued Haiti, right? And European courts, listen to me good, go Google this. I'm not making this stuff up. I want you to Google this. The European courts, quote unquote world courts, sided with France and they buried Haiti under tens of billions of dollars in debt. Guess what France's argument was? Due to Haitians wanting to be free, it cost them profits in the rubber market, the rum market, and the sugarcane market. And without the ability to have slaves to produce that, they lost tens and even hundreds of billions of dollars. And the European courts sided with France. Haiti is still under that burden right now. This is no lie. I'm not making this stuff up. Google this. So again, is that not a debt trap? I'm asking. What about all of the nations that the West have pillaged? And when the nations try to stand on their own 2 feet, the U.S. and the West go and destabilize these nations, right? And then come right back on the back end and say, hey, we got the IMF and the World Bank over there. They'll give you a loan, but you got to cut spending for social programs. You got to cut spending for education. You got to cut spending for science. You got to take all of this money and pay it to the IMF plus all of the interest, and you're no longer able to put your people first. Is that not a debt trap? So how in the world, on one hand, you have the world mired in debt, and let me add that the United States is the largest debtor nation in the history of the world, and is talking about somebody else's debt. Make that make sense? Cognitive dissonance. Okay. Now, before I play this clip again, I know Rashid has something real quick he wants to say on this matter. Go ahead, Rashid.
Well, what they want to do is make those other countries America, right? Don't the people in America go into debt to learn higher education? Don't the people in America, right? They got law, they got roads in here. If you want to ride on that road, you got to pay a toll, right? They want to go over into the other countries and make them just like them, where you got to pay for everything, right?
That's right.
I'm here in California, and the gasoline tax is there. It's almost $2 a gallon. Almost $5.50 a gallon, full $5 a gallon for a gallon of gas. And in Europe, what is it? $10 or $15 a gallon.
They go by liters, I believe.
Yeah, that's what he want to do. He want to make other parts of the world just like him, where he can pillage everything. What did we say before? That if it's raining and you collect rainwater, he wants a part of it. If the wind is blowing, if it's blowing too good, and you set up a solar energy deal, he want to
charge you for that.
Charge you for that.
Yeah. So I mean, it is what. Let me mute you 1 second, Rashid, because I'm getting a little blowback or a little feedback on your end. I unmute you like when I play the clip one more time. When I go back to the clip, I want to address something. Let me put something on the screen real quick. Let me see something. Give me 1 second, everybody. I'm going from screen to screen. So okay, here we are, right here. All right, let's highlight this one. And so, none of your business says, and I want to highlight this. I want you to know that I didn't ignore what you were saying. I just had to finish my thoughts, okay? And I know that's been there for a while, so I wanted to just highlight what you said before we move on. None of your business says, question though, and this is a legitimate question. So he says, is there any indication that the current government that replaced Khan is really any different than Khan himself? Yes, because the government that replaced him was the one that the people wanted out from the jump, and all he did because the former prime minister prior to Khan was under so many investigations, he even went to jail a couple of times. Khan came to power, and then his brother became prime minister when the Pakistanis deposed, not the Pakistanis, the elite deposed Khan. So yes, Khan is different. I'm not saying that he's perfect. What I'm saying is the will of the people demanded him. And whether he's different or not, didn't America say we're for democratic values and we're for a democracy? Well, the democracy of Pakistan, 200 and some million people, 70 or 80% of the people voted for Khan. So if he's different or not, that's the choice of the Pakistani people. That's what I'm saying. All right, let me unmute Rashid to comment on this before I go back to that video. But I had to put that up there for you, okay? Go ahead, Rashid.
Also, Khan is leaning toward Russia and China.
Yeah.
And they can't have that. Whoever do that, isn't that the reason why they went after Syria? Because Syria would not go along with their pipeline, right?
Yes.
Isn't that why they went after Saddam Hussein? Because he wanted to get off the dollar?
He did get off the dollar.
Get off the dollar? Isn't that what they went after Gaddafi and Mubarak and Ben Bella of Africa? Because they were trying to have a united African currency. You see, anybody that want to do anything for their people, the West is there to get rid of them. Now, if you have some puppet like the Shaw and they're scanning and grinning and wanting to do everything that America has, they're all behind it. But the second you want to help your people, he's a threat. He's a dictator. He's a tyrant. Right?
That's the West. Let's go back to the clip and let's play it again. And real True Talk said he's lying from the start, talking about the congressman. He said he opened up lying. We all know that. Let me highlight it for you.
Well, isn't that what a politician is? A liar? And whoever is the best politician is the best liar.
Yep. He was lying from the start. I'm telling you, this is what they do. This is what they do. So let me go back and we'll revisit the clip. I told you I'll stop one or two times and address a few things. But let's go back and see what he's saying. And remember, let me address this point too that I forgot to address. The main point and the main issue that he has with China in that first part is that the yuan was in a position now to start challenging the dollar. If you go back, listen to what he said. He says, and there the people that get on the Belt and Road Initiative, they're signing paper saying that they'll use the yuan. Well, why would they use the dollar? If China is building all the stuff up, why would China give you a cut of what's going on and let you in on what's going on? That's absolutely insane. Would you let China in on what you're doing?
Isn't that what Marco Rubio said? Well, if people get off the dollar, we can't sanction them.
Yeah. Yeah. The insanity. Let me play this clip. That's insane.
Welcome back. More warnings this morning coming out about doing business with China as Xi Jinping moves to make China the number one economic superpower and overtake the United States. I spoke with Texas Congressman Michael McCall, the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee. We spoke here at the Milken Institute. I want to ask you about China because now the Chinese Communist Party has been able to get the Saudis to transact in the Chinese yuan. Are you worried about the dollar losing its reserve status?
Well, not so much. What I don't like, all of a sudden they're the peace broker. You know, they show up at the 11th hour. We're not there, right? When we don't lead, China fills a void. So they negotiate this peace settlement between the Saudis and Iran. And all it really means is they can have embassies in their respective countries. But they're doing it. Macron went to visit Chairman Xi in Beijing when I was in Taipei. What I do worry about the dollar is in the Belt and Road Initiative, that's their debt trap. You have to sign a contract saying, I'm going to sign up for the digital yuan. What China wants long term is for the digital yuan to be the global currency and not the U.S. dollar.
That's incredible. Tell me about that as it relates to surveillance, because I know that right now Ron DeSantis in Florida is pushing back on a digital dollar from the central bank because he feels that there's surveillance threats.
Well, I mean, some would argue we have to get, we got to compete with the digital dollar versus the digital yuan that China's on. China's in 140 different countries, Belt and Road. Each of those countries have signed up for the digital yuan. You do the math. Eventually, their goal is that the dollar is going to be the second-rate currency, and it will be the digital yuan. So we got to be this is a great power competition we're in.
This is an incredible story right here, and really an incredible development, in my view.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
I agree, and it's not talked about very often, but they want to dominate everything. It's not just military, it's economic. And they want to have the global currency, that being the digital yuan, and they're well on their way to doing that now.
And they made sure you and your colleagues knew they meant business when you were on the ground in Taiwan. How did that feel when you're on the ground with the leadership of Taiwan and you?
I won't stop it again after this, but did you see the disbelief? And she says, wow, this is incredible. She says it 2 or 3 times. So let's go to the dictionary real quick, and let's see what incredible means. According to the dictionary, the word incredible is an adjective. It means impossible to believe. unbelievable, beyond belief, difficult to believe or comprehend, extraordinary, magnificent, wonderful, marvelous, spectacular, remarkable. They could not believe that China could do so much in such a short span of time. It is blowing their mind. Now, he responded, the congressman responded with said, they want to dominate everything. What? Stop right there. Everybody, let's breathe. Hold on, Rashid. Everybody take a second to breathe for a minute. He said that China wants to dominate everything. I'm going to leave the floor to you to answer that. Then I'll come behind you. Go ahead, Rashid.
How many countries did China invade? Who has China sanctioned? How many colored revolutions have China started in everybody else's country?
Oh, man.
And they got the gall to say that China is doing so and so and so. So, how many times has America invaded Latin America? They done invaded them so many times they call them their backyard.
Yeah.
But yet still, that see, this is what we were saying before. The mindset of these people. I am king, and everybody else is my subject. And how dare you want to break away from my rule? When I tell you to do something, you better do it. The gall of China to want to be taking over the economic power of the world. Well, you had it, and what have you done with it? All of the bombings and rape, robbing, and murdering all of the countries. And then you got your little minion over there in the Middle East bombing up everybody 2 or 3 times a day and twice as many on Sunday. And if anybody say one word about that, they're terrorists. Yeah, they're dictators. They don't want to be bombed by us.
Insanity.
You got that? They are the bad guys because they don't want to be bombed and they don't want to be like I was listening to an article about. Reading an article today about one of the leaders of Iraq about how they come in. The Iraqi oil is not. When you sell Iraqi oil, you got to do it in dollars, and the bank account is not in Iraq; it's in the United States.
Yes. Same
But yet, but yet and still, they're bad guys for wanting their own country to be controlled by their own country. How can you? And then he sit up there and say, "Isn't it strange that he want to control his own country's monetary system? He should be happy that he's in the New York banking system. You should be thankful that we allowed you to have your money in our bank, controlled by us."
And the New York banking system is controlled by the London banking system. Don't ever forget that.
So you should be happy that we came in and bombed your country and killed up millions of people. You should be thankful for that.
Yeah. And look, the word dominate, because he used that word dominate. And like I say on this show, we try to give you definitions so that you can understand exactly what they're trying to convey. Because sometimes they talk over people. And they pretend like they're talking to you, but they want to talk over you because they know most people are too lazy to go and try to find out the definitions of words. So the word dominate means having a command. First, it's a verb, which implies action, right? And it says having a commanding influence on, exercise control over, to control, to influence, to exercise control over, to be in control of, to command. And it says to be the most important or conspicuous person or thing. See, that's something that is unallowable in the eyes of the empire. You cannot be the center. I'm the center of the world. I'm the center of the financial system. I'm the center of trade.
Once again, I am king. I am king. And when the king, whatever the king does is all right, even if it's 100% opposite of right. But why did you do that? Because I'm king.
And we're telling you these things because we're breaking the Bizarro world paradigm. Again, in Bizarro world, up is down, down is up, in is out, out is in. back is front, front is back, right is wrong, and wrong is right. So we're trying to break that mental paradigm that has engulfed the entire planet. And we're trying to give you a deeper understanding of what is transpiring so that you can better prepare you and your loved ones for the onslaught that is to come. Now, as Rashid just said about he wants to dominate and he has to make it in his mind justifiable that you can't dominate, but he can. Again, that goes back to what I said at the beginning of the show, cognitive dissonance. And according to the dictionary, the word the phrase cognitive dissonance means the state of having inconsistent thoughts, beliefs, or attitudes, especially as relating to behavioral decisions and attitude change. If that is not the United States government, then you tell me what is. Let's go back and let's play this clip, and then we'll address the rest of it on the other side of the clip. I'm going to let this whole thing play out. So just get an earful of this, because there's a lot of garbage being spewed out this man's mouth, right? And he's spewing so much excrement out that I was surprised that the hostess didn't hand him a roll of tissue after the interview, because it was coming all out here, all everywhere. He was spewing a lot of it out.
All over his orifices.
So I want you all to listen.
Welcome back. More warnings this morning coming out about doing business with China as Xi Jinping moves to make China the number1 economic superpower and overtake the United States. I spoke with Texas Congressman Michael McCall, the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee. We spoke here at the Milken Institute. I want to ask you about China, because now the Chinese Communist Party has been able to get the Saudis to transact in the Chinese yuan. Are you worried about the dollar losing its reserve status?
Well, not so much. What I don't like, all of a sudden they're the peace broker. You know, they show up at the 11th hour. We're not there, right? When we don't lead, China fills the void. So they negotiate this peace settlement between the Saudis and Iran. And all it really means is they can have embassies in their respective countries. But they're doing it. Macron went to visit Chairman Xi in Beijing when I was in Taipei. What I do worry about the dollar is in the Belt and Road Initiative, that's their debt trap. You have to sign a contract saying, I'm going to sign up for the digital yuan. What China wants long term is for the digital yuan to be the global currency and not the U.S. dollar.
That's incredible. Tell me about that as it relates to surveillance, because I know that right now Ron DeSantis in Florida is pushing back on a digital dollar from the central bank because he feels that there's surveillance threats.
Well, I mean, some would argue we have to get, we got to compete with the digital dollar versus the digital yuan that China's on. China's in 140 different countries, Belt and Road. Each of those countries have signed up for the digital yuan. You do the math. Eventually, their goal is that the dollar is going to be the second-rate currency, and it will be the digital yuan. So we got to be this is a great power competition we're in.
This is an incredible story right here, and really an incredible development, in my view.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
I agree, and it's not talked about very often, but they want to dominate everything. It's not just military, it's economic. And they want to have the global currency, that being the digital yuan, and they're well on their way to doing that now.
And they made sure you and your colleagues knew they meant business when you were on the ground in Taiwan. How did that feel when you're on the ground with the leadership of Taiwan, and you are surrounded by military, fighter jets from China? Tell me about that. What happened?
Well, it was a slow military buildup. 10 battleships, an aircraft carrier, 90 fighter jets surrounding the island as we were there. And then, we were warned by them beforehand, do not go to Taiwan. And then as I left, the military came to me and said, you've been sanctioned now by the Chinese Communist Party. That's a badge of honor to me. But it just shows you how far they go to intimidate. And really, they almost look kind of silly the way they overdo things like that.
But are we ready for this? I mean, you consider where our military is right now in terms of spending on the military. Are we ready for this China threat?
Taiwan's not ready for this. And I've signed off on the weapons. We talked about this 3 years ago. 22 weapon systems 3 years ago that have yet to go into Taiwan. We're just now starting to train them in combat. And they don't have communications like Starlink. They don't have ISR capability for the island.
And that's ISR.
That'd be intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance.
Which is what you want to get on the ground in Taiwan.
Which would give them eyes and ears into the Straits of Taiwan, but also China itself. China has very good capabilities, and Taiwan really has none, for that matter. Deterrence is key. If you don't have deterrence, peace through strength, you get conflict.
Yeah, but what I'm talking about is the U.S. and China in terms of a potential conflict. Ray Dalio, who has been all in on China for a long time, and he actually told his clients to double down and buy Chinese companies. He said that the U.S. and China are near war. Right now, he wrote this on LinkedIn the other day, and they can't even talk to each other. That's what I'm worried about. Do you expect a conflict with China?
You know, I hope not. The only way we can stop it is to provide deterrence, and we don't have that deterrence. I was meeting with Japan, South Korea, the Philippines to make sure, you know, Australia. I was with the ambassador last night to make sure we have partners in the region in the event that does happen. We hope it doesn't. We hope the calculus with Xi is the price is going to be too high, and we want peace. But if there were a conflict, tomorrow, I think Taiwan would be greatly outnumbered. They cut the sea cable. They do a cyber event on the island, shut it down. And as you and I have talked about, the crown jewel here is TSMC. These are the advanced
semiconductor.
90% of the world's advanced semiconductor chips are made on that island, making the entire world vulnerable, particularly the United States. It would make Communist China the dominating power in the planet.
I mean, explain that, because advanced semiconductor chips are used in, you know, all the important things, including military.
Everything.
So they can just shut it off if they were to acquire Taiwan.
They would own the market, and so we couldn't build advanced weapon systems. Your phones, your automobiles, everything has that little brain in it called the semiconductor chip. From a technology standpoint, it'd be devastating.
This is incredibly concerning to me. And Congressman, you've actually been traveling the world trying to address this issue and others. I know you're headed to Mexico soon. Let's talk about the wide open border and what you can really get done in Mexico and Guatemala in your upcoming trip.
Well, we're going to be passing our border security.
So that's for another moment right there. But let's go back to something. I want to address a few things before you get chimed in, Rashid. I want to let's go back. He said that China wants to intimidate. Now, who? Correct me if I'm wrong, but who has 1,000 military bases around the world? Is it China or is it America? And who? Now, China has a stated no first use nuclear policy, meaning that if war breaks out, they will only use nuclear weapons in defense of their nation, on a nation that has clearly demonstrated that they were going to use it on them. The United States in January changed their nuclear doctrine and their nuclear policy, stipulating that not only will they consider first use nuclear strikes, but they will also have what they quote unquote call tactical battlefield nukes, meaning that, oh, this is just a small nuclear bomb. It didn't destroy a whole state. It just destroyed a city. So we'll use those. And this is the United States policy. Now let's look at something. According to the dictionary, the word intimidate means, first, it's a verb. That's another action word. To intimidate is to put something into motion. It's action. That's what a verb is, action. Okay? Now, it says to frighten or overawe someone, especially in order to make them do what one wants. Who does that more than the United States? If you don't agree with me, I'll sanction you. If you beat my sanctions, then I'll demonize you. And if you still hold up, then I'm going to wage covert war and color revolution. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to bring democracy to your borders. So listen, and it goes further. And it says, to frighten, to menace, to terrify, to scare, to alarm, to terrorize, to overawe, to awe someone. That's what the word intimidate means. I'm gonna let Rashid address that, and then I'll come back and I'll address something else that was said in this little interview. Go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking when he was talking, but you don't want the yuan to do this, and the yuan does not have $31 trillion of debt binding it. How far in debt is the yuan? It's like a man with a stack of bills, right? Yuan got a stack of bills this high. This other currency got a stack of bills going to the moon.
To Pluto.
4,600,000,000 miles away from the sun. He got that many. He got dollars everywhere. But yet still, you don't want that yuan.
Yeah.
You want my money that's backed by nothing.
So that I can control you. That's
right. And the yuan only got all of the manufactured products of the world behind it. They ain't got nothing on it.
Yeah.
It's like Russia. Russia ain't got the Russian ruble ain't got nothing. The Russian ruble got oil, gold,
gas,
a whole lot of natural gas,
silver,
wheat,
platinum.
cobalt. All this stuff is behind the Russian ruble. But what do you got? I got George Washington's face on mine.
And the military that bags it.
And that's second rate itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
He don't have the ability to walk around the world and slap everybody down like he once had.
Right.
Once upon a time, remember when he talking about the smart bombs? We have everybody got a smart bomb.
And Russia jamming system just destroys, just renders them useless, and they have been forced to admit that. But I want to get to something he said. He says Taiwan does not have Starlink. Rashid, I don't know if you remember. Remember, I did an article last year on Starlink on Patreon, and I was telling you about that it was a part of the CIA.
Ain't that Elon Musk's country?
Yeah,
Elon Musk's country. I mean,
yeah,
company.
he owns that. He owns that company, and I was telling everybody, and I said it's going to be revealed sooner or later. See, what Elon Musk is playing both sides of the coin, and he's. First of all, you don't become that wealthy if you don't have connections and they don't have something on you. First of all, especially in this world. All right. Now, the only reason he started to shut down Starlink, and which he's not really shutting it down, is after Russia had hit it and disabled about 30 of those satellites. And then he was forced to admit that he was doing reconnaissance and all of that for the Ukrainian. It was forced out of him. And now you hear this senator or this congressman talking about Taiwan needs Starlink because China may invade Taiwan and this and that. Now, I want you to, the reason I brought that up is because of this. Let's just put these words in the Google search engine. Just put these words. It's 3 words. Just put them in your Google search engine. One, that's O-N-E, China. That's C-H-I-N-A, policy, P-O-L-I-C-Y. One China policy. Why did I say that? Because that is the official U.S. policy on China, and it has been that policy since the 70s, okay? Now, why did I bring this up? Just put it in there. You don't have to go and click on anything. Just put it in there. And the first thing that comes up is this. The one China principle is the position held by the People's Republic of China, the PRC, and the ruling communist party, the Chinese Communist Party, that there is only one sovereign state under the name China, with the PRC serving as the sole legitimate government of that China. And Taiwan is an inalienable part of China. Let me say that part again. The one China principle, and it's not just observed by China, for that means Google is trying to be a little slick here. This is this openly stated U.S. policy since the 1970s. And most of the world, 99.9% of all the world adheres to this one policy, the one China policy. And it says the one China principle is the position held by the People's Republic of China, the PRC, and the ruling party, Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, that there is only one sovereign state under the name, with the PRC, the People's Republic of China, serving as the sole legitimate government of that China, and that Taiwan is an inalienable part of China. Now, Rashid, before you chime in, let me do this real quick. All right. Hold on one second. See, because I like to give definitions, and I like people to understand what we also did. Other people will not be able to.
But didn't that come from Nixon?
It came from Nixon and Kissinger. That is Nixon and Kissinger policy. So,
but as I said before, he does not live up to his agreements.
That's right. Now listen. Here's the definition for the word legitimate. It's an adjective, right? Conforming to the law or the rules. It is the legal, lawful, licit, legalized, authorized, permitted, and permissible government, right? So now, since we got that understanding, and we know what legitimate means, and we understand that the one China policy is something that was propagated by Richard Nixon and Henry Kissinger, because they needed to be able to recycle the dollar when the U.S. economy had hit its limits and the U.S. was about to go belly up. They needed China help. They rewrite history and try to make it seem like China stole the jobs and China stole the manufacturing. The U.S. had been cornered. The economy was in a tailspin, and they needed a cheap labor force, a huge, skillful, cheap labor force to produce stuff, to bring it back so that they can sell it and help this economy out of its downward spiral. That is why the stuff was shipped over there. That is why China became the economic engine of the world, because the United States got greedy. They wanted more profit, and their economy was stalling. But listen, legitimate. We know that it is lawful, right? It is the legal and the authorized government, which is the People's Republic of China, and that Taiwan is an inalienable part of the one China. So now we know that according to the U.S. definition, according to Google's definition, if that is the case, then how in the hell can China invade China?
He does not live up to his agreements. In his mind, one president can wipe out the next president's laws. If I don't want this, then the next president comes. I ain't gonna believe that. And then the other president can go back. It's all helter skelter. But what I was thinking about when you was talking about, what would the empire do if China decided to, say, if California wanted to succeed? Yeah, and let's go over there and give California or Texas some air defense systems, or some they got a bunch of Su-35 fighter bombers. Let's ship them a couple of them. What would the empire sit up and say?
Yeah, a threat to national sovereignty.
It's war.
A declaration.
See, this is what we're trying to show you. They, in their mind, don't do as you see me do. You do as I tell you to do.
Cognitive dissonance. Again, that's what we're talking about. Now, I want to follow that up with another clip, because this is very important that we get these clips in. Okay, let me scroll back up, because I want to play that exclaimer again, because I don't want no problems. Again, we're fighting some of this stuff right now behind the scene on other videos that we did live. So let me play this copyright disclaimer again, the fair use disclaimer. Now, let's go into this little short clip, and things really come out. Things that are hidden come out. So listen to this. This is about what's going on in Asia. This is the thought of the U.S. Okay.
The United States is a leader in the Indo-Pacific region and is there to stay. That's the message of America's ambassador to China, though it has raised a few eyebrows. Beijing responded, saying that such views expressed by Washington have no place in the 21st century.
Amazing. What a typical mindset. The U.S. ambassador to China, Nicholas Burns, says, China needs to understand that the United States is staying in Asia, and the U.S. is a leader in Asia.
He doesn't know it's the 21st century.
Well, Nicholas Burns' comments came about during a discussion at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, where he added that the U.S. role in Asia is stronger than ever.
From my perspective, sitting here in China, looking out at the Indo-Pacific, our American position is stronger than it was 5 or 10 years ago. It's the strength of our alliances. It's the strength of our private sector. It's our innovative capacity and our R&D capacity, which comes from our research institutions and our big tech companies. And I do think that the Chinese now understand that the United States is staying in this region. We're the leader in this region.
Well, not the first time the U.S. is giving advice to other nations on how to enact foreign policy. The U.S. ambassador to China has also warned Beijing about crossing Washington's red lines, while other U.S. politicians, including Joe Biden himself, went just a little bit further.
Our message to China is China should not do anything that will provide lethal support to the Russians to assist them in their brutal attacks on the Ukrainian people. We also have to be clear that if there are any thoughts and efforts by the Chinese and others to provide lethal support to the Russians in their brutal attack against Ukraine, that is unacceptable. Again, that would be a red line.
We used to talk about, when I was a kid in college, about America's backyard. It's not America's backyard. Everything south of the Mexican border is America's front yard.
We have a sacred obligation to support the security of our eastern flank countries. I think it's important to remember who the aggressor is here. It is not the United States. It is not these eastern flank countries. It is Russia, who has tens of thousands of troops on the border of Ukraine. They have the power to de-escalate.
This out. Before you respond, Russian, check this out. America has 100,000 troops across Europe. Russia just can't pick up Russia and move part of it out of Europe and just leave the part that's in Asia. That's not how it goes. But America can pick her troops up out of Europe and come back to America. But in the mind of the Bizarro person, Russia is wrong for deploying troops near Russia. Now, another thing, it says this. It would be a red line for us, and it's unacceptable if China supplies Russia with weapons, while the United States and Europe have been pumping weapons nonstop into Ukraine. If that's not cognitive dissonance,
that is the mindset of a ruler. I'm king. He's sitting on his throne, and you better not help that guy over there do that. What if China do help him? What you gonna do? See, once again, China is a little bit too big to slap down. You can't pull no Gaddafi on China. No. You can't pull an Iraq on China. He can't even go and slap down Iran now. So what he's doing is he's talking from the past.
Yeah.
See, he still thinks he's the cock of the walk. I'm the number one guy. You ain't no more. That's what China told him. This ain't 5 or 10 years ago. You can't run and bully us around. That what's that Wang? That's the Wang Dong missile or whatever it is. Can shoot every last aircraft carrier off the sea, 2,500 miles into the Pacific.
Yeah.
So you can't pick up your military. Can't pick up your military like he used to do, going, what do you call it, gunboat diplomacy, right? Going and blow up everybody in their other countries and call them the bad guy. But once again, I repeat, he who rode up on that horse name was Death, and hell followed close behind. You don't have to get mad at what we're saying. Just look at his history. It tells you who he is. Even Jesus talks about this man. Mm-hmm. The one who loves to go and the provider of arms and war. Somebody that loves to make war. You religious people, what does it talk about somebody who loves to make war and bomb other people and laugh and stuff? What did the Lord of the world say he was going to do with that guy?
He was going to remove those people who delighted themselves in the making of war in the Bible. Listen, for those of you who are listening, I got something else I want to show you all. Please, just bear with us. We're trying to show you the grand picture, the big picture. We want to break the Bizarro world paradigm, and we want to usher in a world where people actually think. They process the information that is given to them, and they actually think, weigh it, put it on a scale of facts and weigh it, and come to a logical conclusion. I want you to listen to this clip right here, because now that we find out that they want to remain number one, they want to pivot themselves to Asia so that they can dominate. One of the main reasons why is this here.
BRICS just announced a new global currency designed to replace the dollar. The deputy chairman of Russia's State Duma, Alexander Babikov, told reporters that the BRICS alliance, which stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, is creating a new currency that will be backed by gold, rare earth metals, and other critical commodities. BRICS will likely take up the task of creating this new currency at the next BRICS summit in late August. While there's still a lot of things we don't know about the currency, the announcement alone is a huge development. Since 1945, the US dollar has been the world reserve currency, meaning it acts as the standard currency for all international payments. This means that if Japan wants to trade with Thailand, they wouldn't pay each other using yen or baht, they would use the US dollar. The dollar's monopoly is especially strong in the oil trade, which until recently was exclusively conducted in dollars. What this means is that every country in the world needs a constant supply of dollars on hand to buy oil and other critical goods, and to acquire those dollars, they have to manufacture real goods and sell them to the US or some other country that acquired dollars from the US. The United States, on the other hand, can print dollars, meaning they can essentially go into debt for free. Economist Barry Eichengreen describes it as the following. It costs only a few cents for the Bureau of Engraving and Printing to produce a $100 bill, but other countries have to pony up $100 of actual goods and services in order to obtain one. The other thing is that since the world financial system was set up by the US and relies so heavily on the dollar, the US also has the power to exclude countries from the international financial system. The US controls SWIFT, the international payment system which basically functions as the blood vessels of the world financial system. The US has weaponized SWIFT by banning countries it doesn't like from it, like Cuba, Iran, and North Korea. The US also takes advantage of the fact that many countries store their foreign reserves in US banks and dollar-denominated assets. The most brazen example of this was after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, when the US froze over $600 billion of gold and foreign reserves held in US and EU banks, making Russia unable to pay its foreign debts. So how would a new BRICS currency change this? Well, the US has the power to print money and unilaterally exclude and punish countries because the world relies on the dollar. But if enough countries make the collective decision to abandon the dollar and rally around new currencies that the US doesn't control, the US wouldn't have the power to manipulate the world financial system like it does now. Skeptics often say that no currency will replace the dollar because not enough countries will adopt it. But the 5 BRICS countries alone represent a whopping 40% of the world's population. If you add the countries that are applying for BRICS membership, it becomes a little under half. If all these countries started demanding BRICS currency in trade instead of the dollar, the rest of the world would likely have to lessen their foreign reserve holdings of US dollars and increase their holdings of the new BRICS currency. Other countries will also probably find the BRICS currency more appealing because it's not controlled by a single country, unlike the dollar. For centuries, the imperialist countries used their military and financial supremacy to siphon off resources and labor out of the rest of the world. Now those countries are banding together and starting their own currency, backed by that same wealth of resources, which will dramatically reduce the value and relevance of Western fiat currencies. While some are going to continue to insist that de-dollarization will never happen, many would argue that it's the current hegemonic position of the dollar that won't last, and that a new financial system that reflects the new multipolar world was always bound to emerge. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. We've been talking a lot.
Played that as a preface to something that we played on the show a while ago. And I noticed when I tried to talk on this on 2 shows ago or 3 shows ago that it was no longer in my dashboard. So as I was getting clips earlier today, I saw it still stored in the memory of the computer. And I was like, and I'm not a computer tech, but I was like, that is what I was looking for. So I re-uploaded part of it for you. So remember, we just saw this congressman tell you about America being worried about China surpassing it and overtaking it and becoming the dominant economic, political, and military power. We just saw how America she projects what she is and what she does on other people to make them the villain and make her the innocent person, and everything that she's doing is benign and wonderful and benevolent. And now we just heard that the dollar is losing its position and that the BRICS nations, the very nations that America has deemed her enemy, are now putting together their own currency. They've already had the institutions put together, the AAIB Bank, the BRICS Bank, the Shanghai Gold Exchange, the Russian oil bourse, the Russian Gold Exchange, the Iranian oil bourse, and the Shanghai Gold, the Hong Kong Gold Exchange. All of that stuff is the rival to the West. Now, before I play the clip, I know Rashid had a word to say, and then I'll come back.
Isn't that what they attacked Libya for? And isn't that what they called that? What did they call that? The Arab Spring. They attacked Syria and they attacked Iraq. The people wanted to get off this dollar, but this time the countries are a little bit too big to go and slap down. Get back in line. He can't go and pull that bomb you stuff with Russia, because Russia can bomb back. China can bomb back, right? He want to demonize China, well, like he said, Russia and China and the rest of them. But China, I've been looking over the news and I haven't seen China attack anybody.
Right.
Russia only attacked Ukraine after America pushed her military right up against Russia's border with this coup, with this, and put this puppet Zelensky in there.
Poroshenko first.
Yeah, they were planning on bombing Crimea again. You don't see Russia and China and the other people running around the world bombing up everybody, stealing their resources. And the bad guy is bombing up there. You don't see that. Once again, treat other people the way you want to be treated yourself. If you want to get respect, stop bombing everybody. Stop sticking your nose in everybody's business. That mean, bad dictator over there. Well, leave him alone. The Taliban's women, they ain't got any. Leave the Talibanians alone. I mean, leave the Afghanistanians alone. See, that is what he cannot do. He cannot leave other people to their own rule. And if you don't, what did he say? If you don't accept my terms of peace, I'll kill you. I'll bomb you out into the Stone Age. But once again, it shows you religious people, you should know who this guy is.
Yeah. Hey, listen to this. So with all that said, while she's investing in all of these weapons, all of this positioning and this pivoting, all of this stuff, all of this pivoting and all, I want you to listen closely to this real quick. Hold on one second.
I guess he left. If you do not do what he say, he'll throw you off the air. See, I get done this 2 or 3 times a day, but like when we're on the air, I get used to being thrown off the air.
I guess they don't want me on anymore. They don't want me to play the clip or whatever like this.
As I was saying, I done got used to that. Them throwing me off at least sometimes it's 9 and 15 times a show.
So I want you all to see this because this puts everything in perspective. Okay. You know, there's an old saying, there's an old religious saying and an old cultural saying that charity starts at home, then it spreads abroad. But with America, she's so hell-bent on dominating and forcing her thoughts and her opinion and her rule on everybody else that she's neglected the home. And there's a saying that says, he who defends everything defends nothing and leaves themselves exposed at home. Well, we see her defending democracy around the world, bringing democracy to you, defending our European and Western values, right? While she's doing that, while she's saying that she's doing that, I want you all to pay close attention to what's happening at home as everything unravels. Pay close attention. Pay close attention.
Dr. Francisco, just before the break, Clive made the point that you're trusting the medium rather than the person. When it comes to the United States, I don't trust the person or the medium. I'd be happy if I never bought another American thing or saw another American dollar because I don't like bullies. Isn't this partly the end of the era of the bully?
I think multipolarity is here. I think that's the key, and the dollar is dying. There is no question about it. Let me give you some figures that are quite important. The GDP of the United States is 24 trillion. The debt, the public debt is 30 trillion. The difference between the total gross domestic product and the debt is 6 trillion. 6 trillion is equivalent to the combined GDPs of the whole of the Latin American countries together, including Brazil. That gives you an idea of the problem. That's number one. There is a US debt clock, which you can find in the internet. I ran it before coming to the show. And I ran it for 5 minutes. And in those 5 minutes, the amount of debt that increased in the United States was 8 billion. Now, 8 billion is, if you have 3 of them, that is the GDP of Nicaragua. If you have 5 of them, that's the GDP of Bolivia. The United States have a very serious problem with infrastructure. Their productivity is low. The number of bridges in the United States that require urgent repair, not repair, urgent repair, is 65,000. The quality of the road, according to the American Society of Civil Engineers, they produce a report every year, 42% of the roads are mediocre or in need of repair. The electricity plants, airports, and so on. Everything is a complete mess. The United States doesn't have high-speed trains. It doesn't. Sorry to say it like this. Even Spain has them. So that gives you an idea of the problem. And the United States economy is growing at a rate of something between 2 and 1%. The Chinese economy, with all the problems, is growing at a rate of 7%. So that means in the next 10 years, arithmetically, the US economy is going to be 20% bigger, and the Chinese economy is going to be 70% bigger. Now, if you take what countries have done regarding this question of the dollar, possibly people do not know, but China and Japan are conducting their foreign trade in their currencies. Iran is conducting their business in no dollar. Russia and China, Iraq, and many other countries. But the recent decision by the Saudi Arabia to actually conduct the selling of their oil to China in yuan. Now, China buys 25% of the total output of Saudi Arabia. This is 30 billion. The United States purchases only 7%. So if you keep going down, you can see that there is already a multipolarity of initiatives. What we don't have is the international architecture, financially speaking, so that there is a system which is coherent, is international, it works, it has legal security that gives you legal confidence that if you enter into a transaction in that system, you know, whatever it is going to be respected. That has to happen, but it's beginning to take place already. So the United States is in a real trouble, and it doesn't have any possibility. I just looked at the budget that Joe Biden presented to Congress for 2023. It's a very long document. It has three key components. Number one, domestic security. It's going to give to the police, domestically, huge amount of resources. The organization Black Lives Matter said, this is not what we want. You know what happened when they have resources. And basically, Biden is trying to get votes from the right by doing this. That's number one. Number two is international security. He increased the budget, the military budget, to $773 billion, which is $30 billion more than in the previous administration. And surprisingly, he's going to apply a tax of 20% on the fortunes of 100 million upwards, which is going to produce 360 billion, and it's going to reduce the budget deficit and the deficit of the United States by 1 trillion in 10 years. So it's totally useless. And in order for this budget to be passed, he needs to win it in the House, in Congress. He's got a majority.
Control over which he may well lose in November.
Certainly, but at the moment, if we were to propose it, he will pass it in the House, but he will not be able to pass it through Congress because there is 50-50. And Democrat right-wing, Joe Manchin, already said he's not going to support it. So it's already, not only is useless as a proposal to recover the economy, but it's already dead before it begins. So that gives you an idea of the problems that they have. So the issue, strategically, from their point of view, is this. Do they continue waging war against everybody else? And who else is there to wage war? The calculation, it seems to me, was if we are able to bully Russia and make them accept our way, and then later on we'll continue with that until, we produce something equivalent to regime change, isolating China thereby, and therefore the next move is to attack China. And this one hasn't worked. The next one is certainly not going to work. So the United States is desperate because it's facing a very serious challenge. Number one, energy and resources from Russia to Europe, which really needs them, and the Belt and Road Initiative by China, which is, at the moment, is in the region of $5 trillion. So therefore, facing with this huge, very attractive embrace from these two nations that have huge resources, one natural resource, the other one technology, markets, money, and credit, and investment, infrastructure, is very difficult to say no. So the only possibility for them is war, war, war.
The only possibility, she said, the United States finds herself, and she knows that she's in a very desperate situation. And so the only thing that she knows how to do is war, war, war. Now, as we're at this point, as we get to this point that I'm talking about, I want to bring something else to your mind. America has sanctioned Russia, right? And so what most Americans don't know is that 25% of all electricity in the United States is at the behest of Russia. You know that? Most people don't know that. Russia powers 25 to 30% of all U.S. nuclear power plants with efficient, high-grade, cheap fuel. So if Russia were to stop selling it, boom, goes the dynamite.
And it makes you wonder why they haven't done it before then.
Right. Insanity. It's just insanity. Just insanity, I tell you what.
Even Europe is still getting Russian gas through the other people, through India, China, and the rest of these people. It makes you wonder if Europe is causing war with China, killing Russian, war with Russia, killing Russian soldiers. Why don't, I remember I told you, Brother Luther used to say, cut the water off.
Yeah.
Why Russia haven't cut the water off?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, listen, everybody, we'd like to thank you all for joining us on another edition of the most powerful platform for truth, bar none, anywhere, not just on YouTube, but on every social media platform. This is your place, your one-stop shop for empowerment, education, and edification. Rashid, in closing, what have you to say?
If you want to treat people, if you want somebody to treat you good, then you got to treat them good. Right? If you want other people to look on you as a good man or a good woman, then you got to be good. You got to do the right things for everybody else. You can't sit up here and claim to do one thing and do another. then they look at you as a liar. This is the reason why nobody wants to have nothing to do with the empire no more.
So in closing, listen, smash the like button, share the video, tell others about it, invite them to come on the show and listen or be a part of it, go in the chat and do all that stuff. We'd like to thank each and every one of you all for giving us your time. And as we always say, we love you if you love truth, but always know that God will always love you better. He will always love you better. On that note, we came out the same way we came in. Hey, mama, your baby boy loves you more than life. Deuces, everybody. Thank you.